Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of the book of Kohelet, the Sefer Kohelet Ecclesiastes. We are about to study chapter 8. In chapter 7, after addressing and complimenting wisdom in the present, in the first 6 chapters, he emphasized the seeming meaninglessness and the seeming transience of everything that we experience. We can't predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen, although we know that we will all have an end. We can't necessarily understand the past. But what we need to do is act in the present. But then he said in chapter 7, he told us, yes, that while this is true, it is very important and special within the present to achieve what he said, chachma, to act smartly, to act properly in the proper way. So he's going to continue on this path of praising the chacham, the one who acts best in the present. And he's also going to tell us a little bit about how to experience the present, how to do it properly. Rather than say, they have the attitude of, eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow you will die, so just be silly and waste time. Rather, what does it mean in the present to use the present properly? So, mi kehechacham, who is like the wise man, umi yodea pesher davar, and who is able to understand the meaning of things, the explanation of things. Chachmas adam to'ir panav. It is true that the wisdom of a man gives light and brings brightness to his face. However, ve'oz panav yishoneh, it is also true that it takes away arrogance. The arrogance on his face is changed because of his wisdom. So wisdom brings us to humility. There are other ways of translating this verse. I'm kind of there's a lot of different ways if you look at the translations, but that's my translation after going through all the different options. But I think that this is really a deep idea here, that on the one hand, Chachma brings brightness to his face. It helps us see value and understand the purpose of using our time properly, but also it takes away our arrogance, right? And the one goes hand in hand with the other. Someone who is arrogant will not have Chachma, will not have wisdom. And one who has wisdom will not have arrogance. This is a very, very important concept. In order to properly enjoy the moment and use the moment properly, one cannot be arrogant. A wise person cannot be arrogant. An arrogant person cannot be wise. Ani pi melech shimar. I do what the king tells me to do, right? Now the king here, he's obviously giving advice and telling us to do the same thing. The king here can be seen as a human king, right? But it can also be seen, of course, as a reference to God as the king. V'al divras shivuas Elohim, and I do as the king commanded, in the same way as I would if it was what I would do in regard to a oath that I made to God. So in other words, take it seriously and do it right. The bottom line is, if he's talking about a human king, then the advice is do as you're told, because the consequences can be severe if you don't. And do it right, because you don't have a choice in the matter. So do it right. If it's talking about God, then he's saying, do things for God the proper way, as if you made an oath. And of course, in a sense, we all did at Sinai make such an oath. But al tibahel mi panav telech. This is a lot of different ways to translate this. It's a little bit challenging, but I'm going to go with this one, and it's similar to the Koran translation, but here goes. Al tibahel mi panav telech. Do not be confused and rushed and hasty and like acting in a very confused, disorganized way, when you go away from his face, when you leave his presence. In other words, when you walk out from in front of the king, what does that mean? When you experience something, right? that the king did to you. In other words, what we do on a day-to-day life when we walk out of a situation that we were in. Don't be all confused and crazy and run out, right? What does that mean, confused and crazy? Why would you be confused and crazy over something that happened? Because you don't understand it and you're angry about what seems to you to be wrong. You think that what happened was wrong. So what you see in that situation seems to be very difficult and hard. Al ta'amod b'davara. Do not stand on something that is bad. Now, what this means here is b'davara, and you'll see as we read through that I'm going to support my translation. Davara means something that seems bad to you, but not so much bad. It could mean bad in the sense that it's bad, but it could also mean bad in the sense that you don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to you. It's not the way you think it should be. Tov would be good would be something that is, to you at least, something that you think is the way it should be. Ra is something bad. So don't waste your time thinking about why is it that way? Why is it this way? And that's the tibohel. That's the kind of confusion that you'll have when you walk out of a situation. Why? Because kikol asher yachbot she'aseh, because he does as he wants, right? You can't ask questions as to why it is this way. He does the way he wants, regardless of what you think about it. God will run it the way he runs it, right? Asher devar melech shilton, right? Because the authority is in the words of the king. He can do what he wants to do, right? Who can tell him what are you supposed to do? Like what are you're supposed to do? No one can tell him what to do, right? He does as he wills, right? Shomer mitzvah, a person though who does the commandments of the king, who does it properly, lo yeda davara, he doesn't know something bad. Now, it's obvious that he doesn't mean here nothing bad will happen to a person. Like, as he's going to say throughout the rest of this chapter, we see very often bad things happening to good people, so to speak, right? But what he means is he will not know, in other words, he will not spend his time worrying about things that make no sense to him, things that don't seem to be the way they should be. V'eis umishpat, what is it? The person who is intelligent, who has wisdom, yeda lev chacham. The heart of such a person, the mind, the soul of such a person knows that there is time, and there is time meaning times for things to happen, umishpat, and there is judgment and justice, right? A wise person knows that it exists, even though he's also lo yeda davara. So in one case, yeda lev chacham, he knows, but also lo yeda, he does not know. He does not necessarily know or understand things that happen and why they happen, but he does know that there is a reason why they happen. What that reason is, he may never know, but he knows there is a reason. Eisu mishpat, a proper time for things to occur, and justice, it does exist. Ki l'chol chayfetz yesh eisu mishpat. This is verse 6. Because for everything that happens, there is a time and there is justice, right? Ki ro'at ha'adam rabba alav, because a person's evil, when people act evilly, it does pile up on him. It does increase. It does gather. It does eventually overwhelm him and overcome him. It happens. We may not see it. We may not know it. We may not understand why we don't see it. But it does happen. Ki einenu yodea ma she'yeh. Because he's talking about the person who's thinking, the person who he's advising, right? The person who has walked out all confused because he doesn't understand why the king said what he said or did what he did, why he experienced what he experienced in his life. You don't know ma she'yeh, what will be. Hi asher yeh. And when it does happen, mi yagidlo, who's going to come back and tell you, right? You don't know what's going to happen to that person tomorrow. And tomorrow you may not be around to find out what happened to that guy. So you have no idea what the end of the story is going to look like. All you know is what happened now, and to you, based on what you see now, doesn't make sense. And then he says something profound in verse 8. Again, a lot of these verses, you may see different translations. I'm very clearly translating the way it appears to me after having studied through at least 8 different translations, all the classical commentaries on this. Maybe not all. I mean, I don't know if anyone can read all, but all of the major classical commentaries I also went through. But after going through all of that, this is to me is the and then just reading it again, and just trying to understand the simple meaning of the words. Ein adam shalit baruach lichlo et haruach. A person cannot control the wind, right? In order to stop the wind. What he's saying in verse 8 is he's listing two things that we have no control over. We have no control over, for example, the weather, right? V'ein shilton biyom hamabes, right? There is no one who has control, who has authority over the day of our death, right? We can't control these things, right? V'ein mishlachat b'milchama, and we cannot get out of this war. We are in this battle, right? This battle that we're in, that is our lives and our experiences, right? We can't just leave, right? We're signed in, right? We were drafted into service, and we're stuck. We cannot control these things. So what are some of the things you might want to do? Well, maybe you could think, you know what? I don't want to be here. And I want to go the evil route, because the evil route, I want to cheat, lie, steal, right? Because I see those people getting away with it. He says, no. V'lo yimalet resha et b'lav. Don't think that you can get away with it by evil. Evil does not save its master. While it's true, yes, that sometimes we at least seem to see evil prospering, right? But we often see evil not prospering. So don't go that way, right? Which way should you go? We're going to talk about that, right? So number one, remember, we cannot control the circumstances of the world around us. And he gave us two main examples. The day we die, we don't know. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be in 50 years. Right? We cannot control the weather. In other words, the circumstances that we're going to deal with when we open up the door of our home and walk outside and confront the world around us. We cannot control the circumstances that are out there. We cannot get out of this war. Don't choose evil, right? But then before he tells us what to do, right, he has to tell us his own bona fides, right? What right does he have to talk? As kol zera'isi, I have seen all of this. I have seen people choose evil. I have seen people who tried to get out of the battle, tried to just withdraw themselves from this world and go into but you can't get away from it. Right? V'nason es libi, and I thought about it really hard. L'chol ma'aseh, I thought about all of the things that happen, asher nasa tachas hashemesh, that happen underneath the sun. Remember, underneath the sun, again, means all of the things that we see, the things that we can perceive, the things that we know, and shed wisdom upon it. Eis asher sholat adam ba'adam l'ra'alo. I've seen the times when one person has the power and authority to oppress other people. I've seen that. I know that happens. Right? Don't think I don't know that unfairness and oppression between human beings don't happen. Oh, I know very well. Uvachein, and also Reisi, I've seen Rishoim Kvurim, evil people when they're being buried at their eulogies, Vavo, and everyone comes, Umimakom Kadosh Halechu, and everyone comes even from the holy places, the guys with the long beard sitting in the front of the synagogue, that everyone thinks they're holy, they're coming and all en masse to give tribute to this guy, and everyone knows that this person was evil. And it becomes forgotten in the city on that day, the things that they actually did, right? Everyone walks out giving praises and praises, but what they actually did, the evil that they did, Gam ze Havel, this is also Hevel. Hevel meaning this is like remember, that's the word that he repeats over and over again that I've been translating. It's like breath, it's transient, it comes and goes. Now what's Hevel? If you translate it as vanity, he'd be like criticizing those people who come and all the honor being given to this guy who was really a not so great, to put it mildly. But no, it means Hevel, the whole thing. Don't get all worked up about the fact that it's not just, it's not right that he's getting all this honor, right? Don't get all worked up about it, because this itself is Hevel. It's all comes and goes. All these things that happen are like breath. You breathe in, you breathe out. It comes, it goes. It happens, it's all over. Asher ein na'asa pisgam ma'aseh hara'a me'era. Because there is no sentence, right, that's written out and signed and sealed for an evil act immediately, quickly, right? The justice of history might not come out till 50 years later, 100 years later, when people look back and realize what kind of a person that person really was. That guy who was riding high and everyone thinks he's the greatest now, or he has all the power now. What exactly the punishment he's going to have, how he's going to be seen throughout history, shouldn't be seen from the moment you see it. You don't know what's going to be in the future. This is why so many people, they have their hearts and minds start going towards doing evil, right? So many people, their soul pushes them to do evil because they see these evils happening and they think that they're going to be saved by going down in the wrong direction, because that's the one who's winning, let's follow him, right? Asher chote ose ra ma'as u'ma'arichlo, because they see that sometimes a sinner does 100 times evil, right, and he has a long life. Ki gam yodea ani, and I also know, and don't think I don't know the flip side. Kohelet tells us, Asher yeh tov l'yirei ha'olim, that there could be wait, I'm sorry, I mistranslated for a second. Let me read this verse again. Asher chote ose ra ma'as u'ma'arichlo, right? The fact is, right, that a sinner can do 100 times evil and he can have a long life. Because ki gam yodea ani, I also know, asher yeh tov l'yirei Elohim, that there will be good for those that fear God, asher yiru milfanav, those that have reverence for God. V'tov lo yeh l'rasha, that tov, that goodness, and what is that goodness? We're going to find in a minute, but I'm going to give you a hint. That tov, that inner peace, that inner happiness of knowing, right, that you're on the right path, that you're doing the right thing, that he will never have. The Rasha will never have. And he will not have lengthy days, like a shadow. A shadow comes and goes, right? None of us really have lengthy days. We're all going to come and go. Remember, he's pointed that out many times. But he is like a tzel, he's like a shadow, right? A shadow that always follows, that has no independent existence, right? Always following the leader who's leading him down that terrible path. He does not have true fear and reverence for God. Yesh hevel asher nasa al haaretz. There is a lot of hevel. There is a lot of this transient nonsense, this coming and going, this transient, like breath that happens on this world. Asher yesh tzadikim, we see people who are righteous, who are just, who do the right thing. Asher magia aleim k'masei harishayim, and that which we see, that which reaches them, in other words, that which they experience in their lives, is the kind of things that should be for retribution for the actions of evil people. V'yesh rishayim, and we see evil people, shemagia aleim k'masei tzadikim, that they get rewarded as if they had done good things. Amarti shegam zehavel. This is also transient. This is also, it might, if you translate hevel as vanity or frustration, or one of the other translations, you would understand this as it's terrible to see this kind of thing happen. It's hevel. It's terrible to see this. Or you can understand that, no, he's saying that which we see is hevel. It's quick. It comes and goes. It's nothing. It's useless. Because v'shibachti ani et hasimcha, what do I have true praise for? Happiness, right? And what is this happiness? Remember, he told us tov, right? Good comes for a person who has fear of God, who has reverence for God. What is this good? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it the pleasures of this world? Is it all paid expense trips to whatever? No. It's es hasimcha. It's happiness. Asher ein tov la'adam tachas hashemesh. There is nothing good for a human being under this sun. Ki im le'achol v'lishtos v'lismoach. Literally, this means to eat and drink and be happy. Eat, drink, and be merry. This is actually where that phrase comes from. But what does he mean, right? He means enjoy what you do have. Don't pay so much attention to the fact that guy doesn't deserve the suffering that he has, and that guy doesn't deserve the goodness that he has. He's an idiot, and he's living high. Don't pay attention to all of these things that you see around you that don't make sense to you. Don't even pay attention to those things in your own life that don't make sense to you. But take what you do have and enjoy the moment now, because you do have that moment, so enjoy it. V'hu yilvenu ba'amalo yemei chayav, right? Because this is something, right? Asher nasan lo halim tachas hashamesh. This is something that God has, so to speak, lent to him. God has given it God lends us things in return for our work, right? What does it mean he lends it to us, right? Because everything we have eventually goes back. Eventually, even our entire body goes back to the earth, goes back to God, so to speak. The days of our lives are alone, right? But it's what God gave us, Tachas Hashemesh, under the sun. And we need to understand that the very fact that we're here at this moment and have what we have at this moment, we need to find joy in that. Kasher nasati es libi lo das chochma. When I paid attention and I set my mind to learn and know wisdom, right? This wisdom, the entire chapter is to tell us about the greatness of wisdom, right? Vileros esa inyan. And to see that and understand what's going on, things that are going on in this world. Not in the day and not in the night. He didn't see light. I never see even a drop of sleep. It drives me crazy when I look around and try to understand everything. And I see that so much doesn't make sense. So much oppression. So much what seems to be unfair, what seems to be unjust, what seems to be unright. And I saw all of the things that God does. A person cannot find an explanation for all of the things that happen under the sun. Right? The things that a person can work so hard for something and never achieve what he's tried. Right? I could see this so many times. Right? Or levakesha could mean to find the explanations for things and not find an explanation. And even if a wise person says that he knows or that he wants to know, lo yuchalam, so he can't really find an explanation for things. So if you're going to focus so much on everything else that's outside of you, and you're not just going to appreciate what it is that you have and enjoy what you have at the moment, right? It's going to be futile. You're not going to get anywhere. And this ends chapter 8, a chapter of so much incredible wisdom. Looking forward to studying chapter 9 together with you, and of course the rest of this incredible book of Ecclesiastes, the Sefer Kohelet. I wish all of you a wonderful, wonderful day.